We're bringing on our final guest, and Michelle Stimpson is a multi-published author. She's not a stranger to the show, although it's been a while since she's been on the show. And so we welcome her back to Black Authors Matter TV.
Hi, Michelle.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me, Gwen and Dr. Rhonda. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. It's good to see you back and still writing.
It's been a while. Next year is my 20th year as an author.
Wow. And I don't know if I met you with your first book.
I feel like we're going to be back.
I met you with Boaz Brown.
That was my first book at Cush City.
Yes. Yes.
Who was with me? Gwen Ewell Foster.
Yes.
And Victoria Christopher Murray. The three of us came at the same time. That was my very first book signing.
Yeah. And that was 20 years ago.
It was.
At our store, when we had our store. And so I've been following you and reading your book since then. And you kept in a similar lane, just expanded what you were, your character base and all that. And you have a new book coming out in March, but don't you have a book that just recently came out, or was it a re-release?
I had, you know what, I write a lot. So I had 2 re-releases come out, I think at the end of July, but also had a book come out early June, I want to say, with Cassandra McLaughlin called Finding My Way. And then I had a book come out in February. A Mama B book came out in February. So I write a lot of stuff comes out.
So do you have any of those handy that you can show them?
I'll pull. I just have handy right in my hand right now. The Sisters with a Side of Greens.
Oh, you have the art already, and that doesn't come out till March, does it?
Right.
There we go.
Yes, Sisters with a Side of Greens.
Sisters with a Side of Greens. Yes, that one comes out in March. Even before this one, though, there will be a December Audible that comes out, Christmas book, Christmas romance. That one's called Christmas at the Gingerbread, and we don't have a cover for that one yet.
Okay. All right. Now, Sisters with a Side of Greens, that sounds like a Mama B book or something similar.
I love to write characters who are older than me, and I'm almost about to be the same
age of the people you used to write about. What is that?
So I need to just stop and be like, okay, now I'm up there with Mama B in a minute.
What attracted you to writing or creating characters that are older than you?
I love the wisdom of the elders. Somehow when I'm with groups of women, whether it's at the church or just wherever, I'm always the baby in the group, because I just will sit at their feet and listen to their stories, and they'll somehow, that also puts me in a position where it's always like, bend down there and pick that up because you're younger than me. So there's a lot of that going on my mother, my aunts, my grandmother, all of them just poured so much into me as a child. I'm the first grandchild, so I kind of felt like I grew up with the baby in that generation before me. So there's just always been this crossover in my mind. I think I just have always been an old soul. I remember looking back at some of my high school pictures, and I was like, I was wearing clothes that but I would wear my mom's stuff, and I just have always loved older women and to be in their presence. And so I think that's the inspiration. Thank you for asking me that.
One of my Facebook friends, you're probably friends with her too, LaShonda Hoffman, she had a question either yesterday or today, one of the days. How old are the characters you write about? That's what made me think about it when you said you write about older people. Because when you write books, that is a choice you have to make.
Right.
About how old are your characters going to be? Well, what's generation? Doesn't necessarily have to be the age per se, but you do have to, that's something you have to decide when you're creating the story, the backstory, the narrative.
Right. All of that. All of that, even the history of, what year they were born, what high school they would have gone to, would they have been segregated or not. One of the reasons that I like writing older characters is because I don't like writing children. when you have a child in the book, you got to keep up with that child.
Yeah, I always ask, you got to put your mind in it, in the mind of that child. You have to speak like the child and react like the child. It's too much.
It can be too much. So that's one of my cheats. When you write the older characters, the child will come on so they can just do the grandma thing and send them off the stage. So that's
Yeah,
what I
well,
like
you know,
in real
that
life.
you just made me think about my 2 novels, and no children have a speaking part. They're only referenced. You know, it's like, okay, they're in high school or they went off to college, they left or whatever, they just referred to, but no dialogue at
Yes,
all.
you got to keep up with kids in a novel, and that's a lot.
Yeah, I never even thought about it, and I've never even thought about giving them any dialogue. But I never thought about the challenge of doing that.
It's a lot. It's
That's
a lot.
true.
You got to keep up with them.
That's true.
And if you
Now,
have them off stage, that's a lot. That's a mess.
some people do a person, the character, they start them off in childhood and then they bring them into adulthood. And then most of the book is about them as an adult.
Right.
That's something that, and a lot of historical stuff will do that.
I love that. And I love to read it. I have tried my hand at historical fiction and I'm just not there yet. I can do a snippet, like I can do a flashback. But I think I've come to understand that I can just appreciate that gift in other people and just write what I want to write. Write what's for me to write, and then they write what, and then 20 years from now, then my book will be historical fiction too. How about that?
That's one way of looking at it, but that's true. You know, that's not my gift. I like contemporary. I like writing about the now. But if I'm going to do fiction, which I don't do a lot of fiction, but I like writing about things that are happening now, the world that we're in now.
Right.
That's what I like writing about. But I love, my favorite genre to read is historical fiction.
I love it. I love it as well. I listen to it now, though. I listen to more books than I read. Which is reading, but
I like to listen to books. And then, you know, we always have this conversation on this show, audiobooks versus physical books. My thing is, whether it's an audiobook or a physical book, you're still gaining the knowledge, you're still lost in the story. So for me, because of my schedule, I'm with you. I love audiobooks. But every once in a while, I don't mind picking up a physical book and reading it. But when I feel like laying in the dark and being peaceful, I would just rather listen to a book than turn on that light and read.
Now I'll fall asleep on an audiobook in a bed, though.
Yeah, I'll fall asleep on a paper book in a bed. That's all the time. All the time. I'll be reading. I know I'm sleepy, but I'm trying to finish this chapter, and the book will fall out of my hand.
Okay. Now
that's my cue. That's my cue. Okay. But I've never listened to a book so far. Rhonda tells me about it all the time. I don't even know how to even order it. What do you use? Your phone?
I love audiobooks.
My iPad.
Yeah. I love audiobooks for 2 things: for driving, when I'm driving long distances, and when I'm exercising. I'm like, when I go on my 5-mile walks, I like to listen to audiobooks. That's why I like walking by myself, because I don't have to like,
you don't have to talk to engage in conversation.
So that's my favorite thing.
You got to be walking in the right place then, because if I walk 5 miles,
walk in the right place,
I'll be like, where's the dog? I need to look. I need to see. I need to be aware of everything
around me. Yeah. Yeah. I just don't know if I would. Seems like it would put me to sleep. But I'm going to investigate, and before too long, I'm going to be able to say that I've listened to a book. I don't know when, and I don't know what books, and that's the other thing, deciding which book to listen to. And that's where I just end up stuck. So I like to read. I really like reading. And so
is that what I just do you?
Yeah. I'm kind of curious, because everybody talks about how great it is. I have a friend that'll, like, in our book club, she'll do both with the book. She'll be reading some and she'll listen to some.
I do that.
I've heard of people doing that.
I do that too.
Yeah, she does that.
Especially if it gets really good. And this happens a lot with nonfiction for me. If it gets really good and they're like, okay, here's a list of things, and I'll be like, I need the list. I need the physical list. So then I'll have to go get the physical book as well.
Now, are your books on audio?
The ones that, excuse me, Sisters with a Side of Greens will be audio and physical, obviously. But the Audible books only come out on Audible. So there's not a print book for those Christmas. I've done, this will be my third Christmas romance with them. And
Okay.
Those are exclusive Audible deals. You can't get them anywhere else except for Audible. So.
Well, that's good.
That's how that
I've seen those. The ones that are Audible only, it has the nice little badge on it.
The little yellow banner across the bottom of it. So yeah, now I listen to a lot of those too, because once they start seeing your, what you like to read, then they suggest stuff to you, and I'll be like, yeah, this is the free book. Yeah, I got a trip coming up. I listen to a lot when I fly. I listen to a lot of that too. So
okay.
Yeah.
Now, what is Sisters with the Side of Greens? What is that about?
So this one, let me give you a little bit of the background. Like I said, I love my mother, her sisters. I don't have any sisters. So I always kind of was sad that I didn't have any sisters. And I just remember being a little girl, my mother would be, behind me pressing my hair. There's, one of her knees on either side. She's back there pressing my hair. And this was back before cell phones and all that. So she would have this long phone cord that was just wrapping around my face and everything. And she was talking to her sisters on the phone. And there was a lot of discussion. And this was before even three-way. So she would call this sister, and then she would hang, let me call you back. Let me call so-and-so. Then she call that sister. Okay, she said this and that. Okay, well, let me call you back. Like all of that, back and forth, back and forth. And sometimes I'd be sitting there like, I don't think that's what she just said. But, I'm a child. I got to be quiet.
It's like the game Gossip, where you whisper in somebody's ear the beginning of the line, and by the time it gets to the end, it's something different. Totally different.
But you can't say nothing because you're a child, and like Gwen's children, you can't say nothing in the whole story. You just be quiet. So I remember once my mother and my grandmother fell out. They didn't talk for about 3 months. And it hurt me because I love my grandmother, like I adored her. So they're split, and it didn't last long. I mean, I guess 3 months is it felt like a long time for me, because we used to go to their church, and I was like, we don't go to church. We go to another church. And it was just like, it just broke my heart that they have this split for those months. And that's kind of where the impetus for this book started. What would happen to cause two sisters or two close family members to fall apart over something? And I remember as a child thinking, this is so tiny, this is so small. And then I was watching a court show, and I saw two people that they were in court arguing over $40. Whatever this happened. So it's not about the $40 at that point.
No, right. I was gonna say that it's not really about $40.
And so this is the story of two sisters who have been arguing over $40 for about 40 years. Something happened a long time ago where the two of them had a falling out, and they have had to have interaction because of family deaths and mama's house and that kind of stuff, but they don't really fool with each other. And it really comes down to, they kind of both have two different recollections of their childhood with mama. Mother is gone on, and she's passed on. She left her spice recipe to her two girls, her daughters, the sisters. But they both have different ideas about what should be done with that recipe. And they both have different ideas about their experience with mama and some things that went down. And so that kind of also goes back to my own childhood. I had two brothers, and we've had different relationships with our parents. Like, I remember mother this way, they remember mama this way. And some of it has to do with how old you were when mom, all of that kind of stuff, and what mama told you. And what
sibling dynamics.
Yes, all of that. So I love the two sisters. Both of them are, they're in their late 50s. So like I said, I'm almost catching up with my characters at this point. And one of the sisters, her ex-husband of all people, tells her, this is not the recipe. Whatever you did to this chicken is not right. And she's like, what do you mean? And so it kind of now she has to go back to her sister and find out where she messed up on this spice, because she's been doing this spice for years. And for her ex-husband to tell her on top of that, that didn't help.
Well, how did the ex-husband get to eat food in the first place?
Well, what had happened was this happens in the very first couple of chapters, so you'll probably get this free. It's not a spoiler. The main character is Rose, and she's retiring, and she had a little accident at her retirement party, and her ex-husband is the only one who can. He's the only who. I mean, they have a really weird relationship, and he did come to her rescue. She cooked him his favorite dinner because he came, and when he took a bite of it, he said, Rose, I don't mean no harm, but this ain't it. So he's the last person she need telling her what's right and what's not right. And they have like I said, their relationship is kind of one that when I think about sisters and women in our relationships with men, in the very first page, in the very first chapter, she talks about how she and David divorced a long, long time ago because he wanted a wife, but he didn't want to be a husband. Because you could want the help.
Yes.
And love someone for how much they do for you,
right,
but not actually love them.
Yeah.
So this is something that that Rose is struggling with and thinking about as a woman of a certain number of years. What would it even mean to be remarried or to even try to, if you wanted to get back with your ex-husband, what would that look like in a society that basically has us as women, particularly as women of color, as servants of all, and we do so little for ourselves, and we expect so little a lot of times from other people. So that's kind of all interwoven. We also have a younger girl in the story who's like, I don't have nothing to do with none of that stuff that happened to y'all in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. Here's where I am right now, and I'm gonna need y'all to stop all this arguing. So it's been interesting. The sisters argue through the whole book. They're just fighting their way back to forgiveness.
That's not totally uncommon.
I would agree. When I told my publisher, my agent about the book, she told me the story of her. She said her mother and her aunt stopped talking a long time ago.
Yeah.
And all she knows is that it has something to do with somebody did not take clothes out of the dryer. And whatever happened around that was it. They didn't talk. The woman passed away. They did not talk anymore after that. So it's these little things, these little falling outs that are bigger than just the clothes. But I want to know, when I hear something like that, I'm like, I want to know what happened. Like, what happened with this $40 between these two sisters? What is it that Marvina thinks that Rose doesn't think, that Mama said or Mama didn't do? Why do they have these different perspectives of who Mama was? I like to know that story.
It wasn't just that one event or that one.
Right.
There was probably so much that led up to that one.
It goes way, way back between these two sisters.
Yeah. And a lot of sibling dynamics have to do with the relationship with the parents, like you said.
Yes.
If one child thinks the other child was more of a favorite or got more attention or got more of something, more time or more stuff or just more, then that becomes a bone of contention, and that can last a lifetime.
It can. And that actually in one of the Mama B books, which is the 8th book, Mama B, A Time to Heal, I think that's the name of it. Her daughter is in her 50s and Mama B is in her 80s, and her daughter is telling her, you did some things to me when I was a little girl that I didn't appreciate. And Mama B is like, I don't know what you are talking about. Like, what are you? And this happened to me with me and my own daughter. My daughter at the time was 25, 26. She was like, you ruined my life. I'm like, really? You got everything you ever needed and most of what you wanted. I would put you through college. And what are you even talking about? So it's been interesting to kind of to go through that with my own child. I went through that with my mother, where I was blaming her for a bunch of stuff that was really just immature stuff. But in Mama B's case, her daughter invites her to one of her counseling sessions and has this big, huge confrontation with her. And she just has to learn how to listen. And even though that's not her recollection of what happened. So for example, this also happened in my family where I wanted to go visit another person. Like, I thought I should go maybe not spend the night, but just go over somebody's house. The mother was like, no, you're not going over there. And I'll be like, what?
Yeah,
well, I didn't know.
My mama wouldn't let us go for certain places either.
Well,
and we didn't understand.
Right. And we didn't either. And I was just like, how come he gets to do this? Now, as an adult, I recognize now, I'm looking, it's a reason why. She didn't want me over there. But she couldn't say that to me as a child. because then I go back and tell everybody else.
Right, right.
But I didn't know that. It got registered in my heart as a child that my mother was treating me differently. I didn't know all that. So even though I understand it logically at this point, what happened in my heart still happened as a 9-year-old. And so those are things that get registered and get sewn into the fabric of who you are and in your relationships, that sometimes you have to go back and go, Mama, I couldn't tell you at the time, but there was something going on with that girl's daddy. I didn't want you over there. So that kind of stuff comes out later, but you have to talk through it in order to get to that.
Yeah, we used to say sometimes that so-and-so, when you would get invited to or you wanted to go somewhere to a party or whatever, and it seemed like everybody else was going but you. And the argument would be, well, everybody else is going, and my mother would just say, well, I'm not everybody else's mother. I mean, she was really kind of no nonsense. She was not inflexible, but when she didn't want us to go somewhere, she was inflexible about that. And it was for good reason. Looking back on it and then seeing what happened to the kids that she didn't want us to go, you understand. But at the time, you just kind of think, and all kids think this to a certain extent, that your parents just don't want you to have any fun. You go through that where you just think they don't want you to have fun at all.
No, that's what I thought.
And they want you to have fun later. That's
right, when you out of their house.
Right.
One of the good things about growing up kind of in this church bubble that I grew up in was that everybody in the bubble was pretty much of the same mindset in terms of the parents. So that was a good thing where, there were probably 3 or 4 parents where my mom would be like, oh, fine, you can go over there and play, whatever. I think it was really the school folks that my mother was like, no, I don't know their mama, what church they go to, what kind, no, where she work at, no, you sure ain't going over there.
We had the same mom.
My mama was too funny. She was a lot of fun.
I love it. Well, Bernita wants to know if you're a ghostwriter too.
If I'm what?
If you're a ghostwriter.
I did try my hand at ghostwriting, but it's not my gift. It is really a gift to be able to take on somebody else's voice. It's almost like ventriloquism, Is that a word? I think that's the right word I'm thinking about. To be able to kind of throw your voice aside and pull up somebody, and that's a gift that I just don't have. I did try it once. It went okay, and I'm actually like super excited about it, but you can never say that you did it.
Right.
But,
you can't tell that it's your work.
But the work itself was well received, and it was a good book, but I wouldn't do that again. Plus, I think I'm just a little too I need my name on my stuff.
I hear you, because I've done a little bit, but it was nonfiction. So nonfiction, you really are still using your own voice, the voice that you think that the other person probably has too.
Well, it kind of depends, because I'm actually in the process of ghostwriting a book now, but it's his memoirs. So in his voice. So I have to think like he would be thinking instead of how I would write it. And so things may not be exactly how I would do it, but it's his style. I don't want somebody, because I've done that. I'm sure you all have read too, where you've read somebody's memoirs or their autobiography, and you're like, this does not sound like the way this person talks normally. And so, I mean, it is very hard to, to take yourself out of something and then put yourself in that person's mind.
Yeah, it's
I think most celebrities, I don't think any of them write this.
Right.
I mean,
celebrities' memoirs, they don't sound anything like they would normally talk. I'm like, I can't read this.
Yeah. I never, I don't read a lot of autobiographies. I think I read Patti LaBelle's, Michelle Obama's, maybe like 5 or 6 and I've read those mostly in my 20s. I think I would have chopped it up to it just being their writing, because I feel like I'm smarter on paper than I am just talking off the cuff. because you can edit that. You can
Right, you get a chance to review and edit when you
So I
write.
feel like I come across differently, and I probably would have just thought that about them too, probably, but I just wasn't thinking hard enough, probably about it.
Now, do any of your books, most of your books that I've read, your central characters are female. You write about women primarily.
Yes.
Or
Yes.
almost exclusively.
Yeah, and I'm not, and that's kind of one of those like ghostwriter things. Like I have a hard time writing in the voice of a man because I'm that's a lot of work. I can't be doing all that. I wrote one book with I've written a couple of chapters that kind of alternate back and forth between men with romance. But even when I write a romance where half of it is written in the male's voice, because I'm writing romance, he's going to say whatever a woman would want a man to say. So that's how it's going to be. I remember one time I told my husband, I was like, why can't you just be more like this character? He was like,
not real.
He was like, because he does whatever you want him to do, because you made him. Like, you're right. I make my characters do exactly what every woman would do when they were falling in love. So even though it's from the male perspective, even though it's a male character, it probably sounds like a male that a woman wants a male to sound like. Because it's romance. This is our story. We can make it whatever we want.
There you go.
And so your husband reads your books? Does he read your books?
He does not. He listens. He will listen to it. But he's more of a music person. So if I ever start doing some music podcast, he'll listen to that. Nobody in my family reads my books. None of my kids. Just nobody in this house. My granddaughter says she's gonna read my books when she gets older. She's the only one.
Well, you're not alone.
Let's read my books because I wouldn't let her read them when she was a kid.
Okay. Yeah. I understand.
My husband and my daughter have never read any of my books cover to cover.
Okay, I don't feel so bad now. I
don't feel badly. And you know what they say? This is the excuse they give. They say, I will live with you. I already know what's in it. No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't. No, this is not a memoir.
Well, I have all my diary. I have a lot of diaries from way back in the day. And I kept them thinking that my children would someday want to read about all this. I used to write letters to them before I even met my husband. They have not read not one letter.
I don't want to read all
that. They don't want to read none of that stuff. My granddaughter says she's going to read them when she grows up, though. So I guess she'll read them.
Well, we're coming to the end of the interview, but I wanted you to remind us of your book, Sisters with a Side of Greens.
Yes, ma'am.
And it comes out March. Do you have an exact date?
March 5th, 2024, which is a Tuesday. We're going for it. We're going for the bestseller list and all of that. And so it is on sale right now, pre-order.
I was going to say that we posted the Amazon link in the chat, so we can order the book now. And once the book on actual release date is when the books will be sent out, I'm guessing.
Yes, somewhere along there. Sometimes I get them when I pre-order. I've gotten them maybe a day ahead every now and then. But look forward March the 5th. I'm super excited about it. It's been a while since I published with a major publisher. This is my first book with a publisher in almost 10 years. I went indie for a while, and I'm kind of hybrid.
Okay.
So I'm excited to get my feet back in that world.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. And we look forward to seeing you again soon.
All right. Thank you, ladies. Have a good night. Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Okay.